Hello crafty friends and welcome back. Today I have another sponsored emark project video. You're going to need some candles, some tissue paper, some wax paper, you could also use greaseproof paper, a heat gun and your emark. So first thing, I'm going to cut out my tissue paper so it will wrap perfectly around my candle. And I'll go ahead and do this for all three of the candles that I have. I'm using white candles, so I have white tissue paper so it will blend in really nicely with the printing. And I went ahead and downloaded some templates off the emark app. So here I'm drawing around my emark. This is just to create a placement guide. So I'm going to start with my emark inside of that pen line and then just swipe my 3-line print. As I say, I picked this up in the app using the download section. And that will show me exactly where this is going to print. So with my tissue paper taped in place, I'm going to swipe across, and don't forget those beeps will let you know when it's time to stop. Pull the emark down, swipe in the opposite direction, it will beep again, and then you can pull down and it will beep and tell you to go across. So there you can see it's printed perfectly onto this tissue paper, and then I can just pull it across, tape it down again and start again, and it's a really helpful way to get that placement just right. So I'm going to continue until this strip of tissue paper is completely covered in the print, and then that is what I will use for the first candle design. So now moving into the second candle, I've lightly taped down another piece of tissue paper and I'm just swiping in a diagonal line this text. I did go a little bit wonky in some places as I was doing this, but it's a handmade item, so it doesn't have to be totally perfect. And then for the third one, I wanted straight lines, but my ruler guide isn't as wide as the piece that I want to print on. So I'm just using the back of that ruler guide as a straight line to help me get my placement perfectly straight. Obviously, I don't have the feature of being able to see through the window exactly where I'm going to print, but this still works as a way to help me get this perfectly straight. I am, of course, printing on top of a scrap piece of paper because I didn't want any bleed through to end up on my desk. And then I have all three pieces printed, so I'm going to go ahead and cut down my wax paper. Again, you could use greaseproof paper for this, but wax paper definitely works best in my opinion. And I'm going to cut that down to be the same size as my printed images. So now the next step is to wrap these around the candle really tight. I'm going to use a little bit of tape to hold this in place at first, and then I've sped this up and grabbed my heat gun. I've got the tissue paper taped in place on the candle and then the wax paper, and I'm applying heat. And you'll see here that the tissue paper melts into the candle. So where I've had that heat, it's completely melted into the candle and kind of become part of it. So that design is firmly stuck in place on the candle. So I'm going to carry on going around the candle with my heat gun and using that to melt the wax of the candle and also slightly the wax paper, so the tissue paper just seeps into the candle. You do want to be very careful when doing this because the heat gun is very hot. I found that a hairdryer doesn't work as well because there's too much air blowing and not enough heat. And you'll want to go through and work on this until all of that tissue paper is embedded in the wax. You don't want any of that tissue paper to still be on the surface because it does cause, of course, a fire risk. It's a little difficult to see on screen, but in person it's really easy to tell the difference between the tissue paper that's on the surface and the tissue paper that's completely embedded into the candle. So you just want to make sure you work your whole way around and have that all embedded. Sometimes I'm rolling the candle on my scrap paper. That scrap paper is just there to catch any melted wax. Now these work really great as gifts or decorative items. You could do them for whatever season or even for a wedding or an event, and I think they look really fun as little decorative accents. Now these work brilliant just as a decorative item. If you are going to light these, of course, just follow the usual rules with candles. You never want to leave it unattended, and you do want to keep an eye on it, even more so because it has that handmade element to it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you back again soon. Bye for now.